Hey, financial besties. Hey, besties. How you doing? How you been? How y'all doing this fine evening or morning or wherever you are in the world? Hey, y'all. May 12th was a very, very special day for me. It was my early retirement anniversary. It has been 4 years, officially 4 years since I walked away from my career and retired early at 47 years old. Who does she think she is? Walked away at 47, y'all. No paycheck, no salary from that good job, no benefits, no fallback, just an investment portfolio that I built myself to fund my freedom and a decision to trust my plan. Some people might call that crazy. Some people might say, "Oh, girl, you did that." I'll leave that for you to judge because we are now in year 4. And honey, this past year was the first time I've ever wondered, did I make the right decision? Will my money last? Did I save and invest enough before I turned off the faucet? So, in this video, I will be open and transparent about the things I experienced this year, the thoughts I had this year, and why. Because every single one of you watching will face the same challenges that I experienced this year at some point in your retirement journey, whether you retire early or whether you retire at traditional age, you will face some of the same challenges. I'm sure of it. But at the end of the video, I will share where my portfolio stands 4 years later. That number might surprise you. But if you're watching me live, hey y'all, drop some money babies in the chat. Drop some money babies in the live chat and say hello to me. Y'all know I love your money babies. Say hello to me and let me know where you're watching from in the world. And for my replay besties, I love y'all too. If you are watching the replay, leave a comment and just let me know that you were here. All right. Let me see who is with me live. Let's see who's with me live. Drop the money babies in the chat. Let me see them. Let me see them. Say hey, so I can see who is with me live. Let me know where you're watching from. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Oh, and before I do that, if you are new to my channel, hey girl, hey to you too. I'm Malika. I am a stock market investor and a money coach. I built my portfolio to fund my freedom. And as I mentioned, retired early in my 40s. Now I live abroad on passive income generated by my portfolio. And I also teach other women how to invest in the stock market so they can turn their income into freedom. So if you would like to work with me, the link is in the description of this video. If you enjoy this type of content on YouTube, tap that subscribe button right up under this video, right down there. But welcome, 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 new friends. I love to see new friends in the live chat. But let me say hello to my OG besties. Love my OG besties. Let me say hello to my friends. What's up, Shalonda King? What's up, channel member? And by the way, if you want to become a channel member, you can click that link right up under the video that says join. I share behind the scenes, exclusive, private content with my channel members. Sometimes when I go live and when the live is done, I only save the replay for channel members. So if you would like to become a channel member, click that join button right below the video. Miss Eileen, hey girl, hey. Love the custom money babies. Another channel member. Let me see, any other channel members with me? I don't see any more yet. So let me say hello to everyone else that's with me. Ooh, this is a new name, Chris Donato. Hey, Chris. Welcome from Miami, Florida. Hey, Miss Maya. Love the brown money babies. Welcome, welcome. Where are you, Miss Maya? Eileen said she is in weird weather, Minnesota. 85 today and 65 on Tuesday. Girl, why you living there? Why you haven't left yet, Miss Eileen? Why haven't you left yet? The weather here is hot, super hot. It is 8 a.m. on Saturday for me, and it is already 86 degrees at 8 a.m. At the height of the heat today, it's going to be 94. Oh, I expected it to be more than that. So the high today is going to be 94, but child, with the humidity, it's going to feel a lot hotter than that. But the high is 94, and we're expecting rain. So that's probably why it's going to cool off. Yeah, so we are officially in rainy season now. So actually, rain is in the forecast all week long. But as you can see right now, it's beautiful and sunny. And that's usually how it'll be most of the day. And then we'll get a pour, like the sky will open and it'll pour down for like 30 minutes to an hour. And then the sun will come back out. But during rainy season, it very well might rain every single day. But I love it because it cools things down because, child, it is hot. I mean, hot. But I try to minimize my exposure to the sun as much as possible, especially between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. If I haven't gone out to do what I'm going to do before 10 a.m., child, it ain't going to see me today. It ain't going to see me today. Which reminds me, I might change my live streams to East Coast Saturday night and my time Sunday morning, because Sunday is my rest day. That's usually when I don't work out. So that will be a more consistent schedule for me. So when I'm trying to maintain Friday night East Coast time and it's Saturday morning my time, I tend to delay my workout. And that's not going to work for me consistently. Because if I delay my workout, that means I can't go outside and work in the park, because by the time the live stream is done, it's already too hot. So I'm stuck working out in the gym, which is what I'm going to do today. Since today is a lift day, I planned it that way intentionally this week. So I'm going to lift weights today. But I usually like walk in the park on Saturday. So I may change my live streams to Sunday, my time, Saturday night, your time. What do y'all think of that? What do y'all think of a Saturday night live stream, which is Sunday morning, my time, which is already a rest day for me? Let me know in the chat. Will that be okay with you if I change the day so that I can be more consistent? I'm trying to find my groove again. But I think if I go live on Sunday mornings, my time, I will be more consistent since I'll be in the house and resting anyway. But yeah, if I try to maintain Saturdays, the time is going to shift sometime. The days might shift sometime because I got to get a workout in on Saturday. So I'm not going to be as consistent. But yeah, let me know because I think changing it will work better for me if I'm going to try to get back into a steady routine again. But anyway, back to the topic, honey. Back to the topic, honey. I know a lot of people think the hardest part of planning for retirement is the actual saving and actually planning your life after retirement. Girl, I got news. In my opinion, I think the hardest part of saving for retirement and planning for retirement is making sure that you have a strategic plan to stay retired. Because, child, some of the things that I thought about this year, I was like, am I going to have to go back to work? So if you are already retired, let me know how it's going for you. Have you ever had that thought before? Have you ever questioned, will my money last? Let me know how retirement is going for you. But if you're still working towards your freedom, let me know how that's going too. But year four kind of tested my plan. This was the first year that really tested my early retirement plan. I think I kind of coasted by. Maybe I got a little lucky year 1 through 3, but year 4 really tested the plan, and it made me wonder if my money will last and if I need to go back to work. But yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what tested my plan and what made me question if my money will last. Well, let me see what you all are talking about in the live chat. Let me see what you're talking about. Let me know if switching to Saturday nights Eastern time will work for you. And let me know if you're retired or working towards your freedom date. Let me know how that's going for you. Let me know how it's going for you. Miss Maya, you're in North Carolina visiting family. Awesome. Miss Anita, hey girl, hey, you're in New Jersey. Miss Eileen, whatever works best for me. Okay, thank you. Miss Winning in the workplace. All right, that's an interesting name and a new face I haven't seen before. Welcome, new friends. You said you're working towards your freedom date. All right, how's it going? How's it going working towards your freedom date? Miss Anita says, already retired, 2 years, haven't questioned if I have to go back to work, but I worked through a fair amount of financial anxiety the first year and into the second year. That's completely understandable. Completely understandable, because when you first cut the cord, even if your finances and the numbers and the calculators says you're fine, you have more than enough, you're not really sure that first year because you're adjusting to that paycheck faucet being turned off. For 20, 30 years, you've received a regular paycheck every 2 weeks or every month. And then all of a sudden, you don't get that direct deposit. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. So this is for real. I really do have to make sure my plan is working for me. So I can see how that can cause a fair amount of anxiety. But yeah, I didn't question my plan either the first 2 years. This is the first year I've questioned my plan. And yeah, I'll share some of those reasons why. Winning in the workplace, I usually catch the replays, but I'm still about 5 years out. Okay, maybe sooner if I can get some things to work faster. All right. Well, I hope things work according to your plan, exactly the way you want them to. But just know, child, life be lifing. So sometimes you might need to swivel You might need to pivot and change up some things. So continue working towards your plan, but also leave some flexibility in the plan. Because now that I'm on the other side, I can acknowledge that there were some things that I did not expect. So it wasn't part of my plan. And that's what made me, making me feel like, should I have considered this a little more? And there are some things that I did expect, but now that it's reality, or uh, now that it's actually happening and it's right in front of me, and I have to really consider it, I'm like, wow, did I plan enough? You know what I mean? And some things just life happening, and there's no way I could have planned for it. So, yeah, let's talk about it. The first thing that challenged my plan and had me questioning some things in year 4, child, is health. Is health. It's the number one thing that early retirees think about. It's the number one thing that traditional retirees uh, are concerned about. And it's probably the main reason why people stay working a lot longer than normal, is because of health concerns and health insurance, and the concerns about, medical expenses. Well, in year 3, I had the health scare. I was diagnosed with very early stage breast cancer, something that I would have never been able to plan for. Went through treatment, chemotherapy, radiation. But child, year four is when the bills started flooding in. Year 4 is when the bills started flooding in, when I finished treatment. And then I started seeing the reality of what the treatment was costing. Because when you're in the valley and going through a major health crisis, money might be in your peripheral, but it's not in your face. You are focused on surviving, child. You're focusing on getting the treatment, getting the best health care possible, and praying that you live through it, that you make it through it. And it's like I knew the bills would come. I would see, the messages in my patient portal. But child, and you know how healthcare in the United States is, you will continue to get bills months, maybe even years later after the treatment is complete. So child, when those bills started coming, and they kept coming. And then, of course, you know how they do in the United States. You're treated by this doctor that you chose, that's in network, that your insurance covers. But because of, it may have been one complication you had, where this other doctor that you don't even know, that you didn't choose, that you don't even remember seeing him or her, but they might have come and touched you for like 2 minutes while you were out of it. And that doctor was out of network. And that doctor sends his bill too. Child, the things that I've had to do to challenge insurance, and the back and forth and the justification, because an out of network bill is very, very different than an in network bill. And I'm sure you know, chemotherapy is not cheap. And I had 8 rounds of it. Okay. One of those rounds, I did have a medical emergency. I won't recap it here. I already shared that in prior videos. but I did have a medical emergency, and I thought the Lord was about to take me away from here. But year 4 started with health. I finished all of my treatment at the beginning of year 4, and some of those bills were shocking. I won't paint a grim picture. Well, I don't want to paint an all grim picture because I did plan for health expenses. I did expect health expenses to be a little higher in retirement than they would when I was younger, obviously. But no one plans to be diagnosed with cancer, right? And if you've never had cancer and you never treat, or you were never a caregiver for anyone with cancer, you don't know what that treatment experience is like and how long it lasts. I was in treatment for almost a year. But yeah, the bills are rolling in now. I did have some wins. I do have a health savings account that covered a lot of bills. I was able to pay tax-free. The health savings account is invested in the stock market, so I was able to shave some profit and pay those expenses with tax-free money. So I did have some wins in that area. So make sure you have a health savings account if you're planning to retire early. And even if you retire traditional age, still have a health savings account because Medicare may not cover everything, or it may deny some treatment that your doctor says you need. So you want that extra buffer to be able to say, you know what, I got this. I'm going to pay out of pocket because insurance will not dictate the care that my doctor says I need. And I had to make that call several times as well. And I'm glad I did. Because I received excellent care during my treatment. And insurance companies, some person sitting behind a cubicle is not going to make decisions that will impact my quality of life. But I am doing much better. I am in what I call a healing environment now. Where I am was a deliberate choice because of the phase in life that I'm in right now. I'm getting stabilized now. I'm finding my rhythm again. So I needed to be somewhere that matched the new life I was adapting to, because I will never be the old Malika again. After cancer treatment, you're never the person that you were. So that's a life I left behind. But the reality is there were medical expenses that I did not anticipate when I stopped working at 47. If I were working and still had them good benefits, I probably would have paid next to nothing out of pocket if I was diagnosed with cancer while I was still working. But cancer is it's that thing that nobody puts into their early retirement calculator. And I'm not saying this is right, but you associate cancer with older people. So if you're planning for traditional retirement, maybe that's a thought that you've had. But for those of us that are like in the FIRE community that focus on financial independence to retire early, cancer never crosses your mind. It's not something you consider when you're young. But the data, the medical studies are now saying that people are getting diagnosed with cancer younger and younger and younger, especially breast cancer and colon cancer. So it's now something that should be considered in your early retirement plan. You know, we plan for travel, we plan for housing, but Nobody plans for what their body is going to decide to do when you finally slow down and it finally wants to start reacting to the things that you had been doing for decades and it was kind of shielded. After you walk away from a career and you walk away from stressors, then other things start popping up because your body now has time to react. So it's a reality that all people who are planning for retirement, especially early retirement, should consider. In addition to that, because I am now a cancer survivor and I'm only almost 2 years out, August will be 2 years. No health insurance company will cover me for the first 5 years in recovery until I reach the 5-year mark. No health insurance company will cover me. So because I chose to leave the United States, I have like catastrophic insurance for like emergency purposes that are unrelated to cancer. But all of my treatment, all of my care that's related to monitoring the cancer, that's related to, screening, if I ever have a recurrence, anything that happens within the first 5 years, I have to pay for everything out of pocket. Those are expenses that I could have never planned for. So that's another thing that made me question the long-term sustainability of my early retirement plan. All right. And the emotional side of that is real. Navigating health concerns and health expenses without an employer insurance card, without an HR department, being in a foreign country. That's a real part of my life now. And I would rather be transparent and tell you about my experience than for you to find out that this could possibly happen to you too after you're already retired and you didn't plan for it. I'm sharing my experience so that you can see the reality of what life on the other side of early retirement could look like, so that you can plan for it before you cut the cord. Okay. I know in the early retirement community, it's very fun. It's easy to talk about the wonderful things, the freedom. I get to sleep in. I no longer have an alarm clock. I no longer have an employer to report to. I get to do what I want. I can travel the world, all the fun things. And I talk about that too. But early retirement is not all peaches and cream. And I want to talk about that too. This is my reality in year 4 of early retirement. I was faced with some things that I did not plan for. So I am grateful that I had a health savings account to cover a lot of the unexpected medical expenses. I am grateful that I had the funds to say, screw you, insurance. I don't care whether you cover it or not. I will pay for this out of pocket because my doctor, my board certified doctor, recommends this for me. So you will not get to decide what type of medical care I will receive. But that cost me. It cost me, and it was an extra expense that I did not plan for. But I'm very grateful that I had the option to make that choice. But it does impact the long-term sustainability of your plan if you didn't consider the possibility of it. All right. So let me know in the live chat if you're already retired or if you're planning for retirement. Are you considering the possibility of substantially higher medical expenses? And this applies whether you're in the United States and you still have health insurance, because your health insurance may not cover what your doctor say you need, or if you move abroad and you pay your health insurance out of pocket. Right? Let me know. Let me know. Tanisha Sheriff, hey girl, hey, welcome new friends. Tanya Brooks, hey girl, hey. Winning in the workplace, health costs are the main reason I'm still working. You need a part-time job just to cover monthly prescriptions. That is true, but I also want to add a caveat in the United States. So part of my plan, which is unrelated to health insurance, but end up being a benefit because of health expenses. Part of my plan was leaving the United States. And outside of the United States, health costs are substantially cheaper. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer and I had surgery, had a mastectomy, I opted to have my surgery outside the United States. And my surgery was a fraction of what it would have cost in the United States. Now, if I was still working and had that good insurance, it wouldn't even compare. But once you are retired in the United States, I got insurance from the marketplace. While marketplace insurance does provide a lot of coverage that you need for basic things. So it's a decent alternative to insurance with your employer. And it covered a lot of my cancer treatment, but there are limits to it. And I guess the same limits that you have with any insurance. Like I said, insurance will deny things that your doctor recommend. So whether you choose to work longer for health insurance coverage or not, I beg of you, please plan for your own out-of-pocket healthcare expenses, regardless of what kind of coverage you have. Because being in a position where you're choosing between quality of life or even potentially life or death, and it's something that your insurance company has decided is not essential right now because you haven't followed these first 10 steps, screw you. I'm not doing that. So having the funds to be able to pay so that you can get the treatment you need faster, so you don't have to continue suffering and pain, it makes a difference in your quality of life, and it will give you relief that you can proceed with your doctor's first priority plan, not a plan that's being adjusted because of insurance. That's something in the United States that just chafes me. It just, I hate it. I hate it. But being able to choose what's best for you, regardless of what insurance does, it will make a huge difference in your quality of life. So even if you choose to work longer for health insurance, don't think health insurance is going to save you from everything. Still plan for your own out-of-pocket expenses. So if you have access to a health savings plan, leverage it, max it out, max it out as much as you can, as often as you can while you're still working. Max it out. Even if you have to reduce some of your expenses so that you can pad more into your health savings account, please consider doing that. And then when you invest it and learn how to compound it and grow it, after you retire, that account will be your saving grace. It will bridge the gap and relieve a lot of concerns when you're making your medical care decisions. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome, Maya. That is true. We don't plan for what our body might do after we slow down. Yeah. We have no idea all the things that are brewing inside because we're moving and going through, we're not really living, at least in the United States. You're going through life on autopilot. You're dropping the kids off at school or at daycare. You're going to work. You're working for 8, 10 hours, and then you're going home. You're picking the school children up. You're helping with homework. You're cooking dinner. You're cleaning out. It's like you're operating on autopilot, and you're carrying so much stress, and you don't even realize how much stress you're carrying. And your body is going through so many things internally. And it isn't until you slow down and you exhale and your body is like, whoo, I don't have to work so hard to keep her alive anymore. So now I can release all of this. And when your body starts releasing things, you have no idea what's going to surface. And that has been my experience. That's been my experience. Ms. Maya, let's see. I read recently that almost 60% of U.S. workers retire earlier than expected because of health challenges. It seems we have to plan for health whether we want to retire early or not. Thank you for sharing that, Maya. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what I'm sharing is essential whether you retire early or not, because life could happen and force you into early retirement. Like Miss Maya is sharing, 60%. I didn't realize the stat was that high. Wow. See, Anita, yes, but I did plan for much higher healthcare expenses. Healthcare costs are the main reason I spent about 25% more in retirement than when I was working. In the US, of course. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's wonderful that you plan for that and you actually spend more on healthcare now that you're retired. Awesome, awesome. Yes, I am planning for retirement abroad in the next 2 to 5 years. I have just begun to factor in out-of-pocket healthcare expenses. All right. Good, good, good. Yeah. I'm finding that my out-of-pocket healthcare expenses are similar to being in the United States and having to meet a deductible. So if you have an HMO and all you have to pay out of pocket is like a really small copay, paying out of pocket abroad may seem expensive to you. You may feel that difference if you go to the doctor and you just pay a $30 copay or $50 copay if you go to urgent care or something like that. But if you have like a PPO plan where you have to pay a certain amount out of pocket first to meet a deductible before the rest of your insurance kick in. And then when the insurance kick in, you still have like cost sharing. So if you have that type of insurance, when you move abroad, it's going to be a relief because even paying out of pocket abroad is still either equal to or substantially less than what you were paying when you had to meet your deductible in the United States. My surgery cost in Malaysia was about, I want to say it was less than $20,000. I think it was $16,000 out of pocket. And that was everything, the care, I said my surgery costs. It wasn't just surgery costs. It was everything that I paid leading up to the diagnosis, all the diagnostic scans, the hospital stay, the surgery, the follow-up treatment. So I kept a running spreadsheet of all of my expenses while I was in Malaysia, and everything total came up to be about $16,000-$17,000 out of pocket. So yeah, so if you're used to paying a deductible in the United States, when you move abroad and you pay out of pocket, it's going to feel like savings. Yeah. Winning. Yes, my retirement plan includes retiring abroad. Currently continuing scouting out locations. Awesome. Is mine not retired yet? Working diligently to get there before 50. I love that for you. I love that for you. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so now let's talk about the second thing. The second thing that had me questioning my plan, like, girl, you retired early, so that means 13 years. 13 years before traditional retirement age when you can access your retirement accounts, 15 years before you can access like Social Security and other annuity type payments. But the other thing that had me questioning the sustainability, the long-term sustainability of my plan is what we are all currently experiencing right now. That's causing a global impact. So not just in the United States, even where I am now, it's something I have to consider as a reality. Is the war, the multiple wars, I should say, that's popping up all over, an impending World War III, the tariffs that are causing the price of everything to go up because all those costs are passed on to us, the consumers, and fears of a recession. You know, the domino effect of all of these economic things going on at the same time. Fears of a recession. So year 4 did not just test my body and my health. It tested my portfolio. And the things that are happening as a result of all of these things that are impacting the economy and the stock market, it's like the combination, the combo impact of it all. It's now in your face and you can't ignore it. You can't deny it. And because I live abroad, something else I need to consider is the impact on the value of the US dollar. So I moved abroad with confidence in my plan that my dollar could buy even more than what I could buy in the United States. But with all the things that are going on, that's going to continue and probably continue to get worse, an impact to the regime could have a substantial impact on my portfolio. And how much I could buy with my US dollar. So one of the very popular strategies in the FIRE community is earning money from one location where the currency is strong, but living in another location where the currency is weaker. So that's called geo arbitrage. And the whole concept of geo arbitrage is being able to buy more, being able to stretch the dollar even further because you're earning in a place where the currency is strong, you're earning more money, and you're taking it to a place where not only are the expenses lower, but your dollar even goes further. So, well, that is a strategy I did plan for. I did not plan for a regime change. I did not plan for the United States potentially not becoming the most powerful country in the world. I did not plan for the US dollar potentially not having the strength that it currently has. Yeah, I did expect fluctuations in the value of the dollar. That's normal. That's normal. But I mean the potential of a complete regime change. Right now, what's happening in the oil industry, the US dollar is only as strong as it is for two reasons. Number one, the petrodollar. When oil is bought and sold around the world, it has to be paid for in US dollars. So every country in the world needs to have US dollars to buy oil. So as long as the USD is in demand, the value is going to remain high because it's in demand, right? And another thing that keeps our dollar strong is because other countries own US debt. That's why we're able to keep raising the debt ceiling and be in debt for billions and billions of dollars and keep acting like we're the strongest country in the world. We're in debt to other countries like China and Japan. So if there's a threat to our standing, and we're already seeing oil being sold that is not using the US dollar, we already know that BRICS is quietly developing in the background and countries are joining the coalition. I did not plan for a regime change. And not saying that there will be a regime change like immediately, but I'm talking about the longevity of my plan. I retired at 47. So, God willing, I hope to live at least until 87, 40 years. So I'm talking about the longevity of my plan long term. The slow leak and the slow loss of power that we have seen already in just 2 years, can you imagine what will happen over the next 40? That's real. And that's something to consider because when you have geopolitical conflict that's escalating, not something that just happened and it's in the past, it's real now and it's escalating. So it's not getting better. And you have tariffs and you got a leader that just dropping tariffs on everybody and he doesn't even know like why the tariffs are the way they are. He just think it's unfair and everybody just need to have an increase across the board. That decision making impacts regular everyday people like you and I. He doesn't give a daggone because I got to say he's a billionaire. We already know he's not as wealthy as he wants us to believe, as many times as he don't file bankruptcy. But the decisions that he's making haphazardly without a plan, going to war without a plan, slapping tariffs on all of these countries who are our allies without a plan. I didn't plan for that. I didn't expect any of this would happen, but it is affecting me. And it does affect the long term sustainability of my early retirement plan. It's one thing to know theoretically that recessions happen, the timing, how often recessions happen, planning your portfolio, having a cash pile, having your proper diversification. This is not theory anymore. Recession conversations are not whispers anymore. This is real life, and the conversations that are being had at full volume. And if you're not having them at full volume, you should turn up the volume. This is happening right now, and it's real. It's not theory in a book. It's real life right now. And the way the market has been all over the place right now, it's up. It's wonderful because all the war conversation is a little quiet. But the volatility has been crazy. It's felt like a roller coaster ride this year. Like we've been on a roller coaster without a seatbelt. I'm laughing only because we only been not even 2 years with this man, y'all. We still got 2 more years to go. And ain't no telling what he has planned, what he has up under his sleeve to extend the torture. But early retirement taught me that market downturns feel very different when you're not working anymore and you're not adding a substantial amount to your portfolio. And the idea of retirement is still a long time away. When you're in retirement, especially early retirement, and you are starting to draw down from your portfolio, or you've turned off the drip and you're taking your dividends as income, market risk becomes very real. It's no longer a theory that you read about in a book. It's no longer a theory that you hear about watching YouTube videos. It's real. It's real life. It's something that you really have to manage, and it's something you have to balance. And if you're in early retirement, you retired early, especially those of you that retired in like your 30s, woo, it's something that you have to balance with precision, right? Because that market volatility, it hits different because you're no longer accumulating wealth. You're no longer adding to your portfolio. You're depending on that portfolio to fund your life. So you're in a wealth preservation phase. So large swings in the market, it can create emotional pressure, psychological pressure, and make you question if your long-term plan is mathematically sound. You can't put emotions in a retirement calculator. You just can't. So watching your portfolio dip while you're relying on your portfolio to pay bills can make you question if your plan is sustainable. Right? And speaking of withdrawal strategy, now this, no, I'm not going to say that. I'll just speak it in general. But when you're retired, your withdrawal plan becomes one of the most important decisions you'll make. You spent 10, 20, 30 years saving and investing, putting the money in there. When you retire, your withdrawal plan is important. Timing matters and flexibility matters. Because during the strong market years, when we're in a bull market, it may feel good. It may feel effortless. You're like, all right, things looking good. I got plenty of money. I can draw down $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 and be comfortable. But during those weaker years, when the market is down, when the economy is being threatened, if we start trending towards a bear market, that same spending, let's say you spend $50,000 a year. When the market is down, withdrawing $50,000 a year from your portfolio could put a strain on your portfolio, and it could impact the long-term sustainability of your portfolio. So early retirement, for me, has forced me to face reality first and foremost. Recessions are no longer theory, right? Market drawdowns are no longer theory or something you just glance at and like, oh, I got plenty of time. I'm in retirement now. So it has forced me to face the reality of my withdrawal strategy to make sure that there's long-term sustainability. And what I did plan for was before I walked away, I had a cash cushion that was about 2 years of expenses. And then I have what I call my bridge account, the portfolio that was created to bridge the gap between 47 and 60, right? And then the rest of my retirement investments, right? And then the HSA. The HSA has no age limit. The HSA, as long as you have qualified medical expenses, you can withdraw from that tax-free at any time. However, even with the best laid plan, when the market is volatile, or when you are facing the reality of a real potential recession, your plan will be tested. Because if you're drawing down from your cash reserve, even if you plan for 1 year, 2 years, you're drawing down, at some point, you need to replenish that cash reserve so that you can continue to be prepared for the next weak market, right? So year 4 made me question things because I had to face the reality and question the sustainability of my plan. Did I plan enough? Did I save enough? Did I structure it well enough to really be prepared for the reality that's happening right now? Right? And when I share, I'll share that in a minute. But another concern that early retirees need to consider that is something at the forefront of my mind right now is a concept called the sequence of returns risk. The sequence of return risk. I'll get to that in a minute. Let me talk about this third thing that had me questioning my plan, child, questioning my plan. Moving abroad is wonderful. I love living abroad. I love my life here. When you get settled, things are substantially more affordable, so your money will certainly last longer. But getting to that point of being settled and that stability, it's not cheap. It's not cheap. So I know a lot of people talk about moving abroad and talking about saving money because it's cheaper to live abroad. But the moving abroad process is not cheap. I'm not just talking about booking your flight and, getting your passport. The moving abroad process is not cheap. It was important for me to leave the United States because of the first issue, the health issue that I had. I truly believe you cannot heal in the same environment that made you sick, right? Once I started recovering, finished the breast cancer treatment, I was even more adamant that I was going to live outside the United States because my nervous system needed to woosah. And it is settling. It is regulating. I feel so much better, and I've shared that in other videos. But the move abroad process is not cheap because If you want a long-term visa in the country that you choose, not the country you settle for, if you want a long-term visa in the country that you choose, that you really want to be in, some of them have very steep financial requirements. So I'm going to do a separate video on the long-term visa that I have, where I am right now. But in order to qualify for the visa, I had to restructure my portfolio. I had to restructure my portfolio in order to demonstrate that I met the requirements, because they don't view wealth the same way is viewed in the United States. So in order to meet their requirements, I had to change some things so that they could view it based on their standards. And the changes that I had to make cost me. It cost me in expenses in hiring an attorney. It cost me, I would have to take a tax hit for the change that I had to make. And then the cost of the visa itself. While I have no regrets and it's going to benefit me long term, because I love being here and now I can legally be here for 10 years. Although I don't know what 10 years hold for me, so I can't say I'm going to stay for 10 years, but I like having the legal permission to be here for 10 years. But the upfront costs, the upfront financial hit to my portfolio, it cost me. It was not cheap. Could I have gone to another country and got a cheaper visa or something that didn't require me to do what I did? Yeah. But that would have come with trade-offs if that's not where I really wanted to be. Right? So that is something I did not plan for. In fact, there's no way I could have planned for it, because 4 years ago, I wasn't even thinking about living here. 4 years ago, I hadn't even researched what the visa requirements were for this country. In fact, I don't even think the visa that I have now was even in existence 4 years ago. So it's not something I could have structured my portfolio for back then so that I would be ready 4 years later when I applied. So it's not something I planned for. But the compound impact with the health expenses, with the market volatility, and then the upfront cost of moving abroad, it's like the compounding of it. It just made me go, oof, year 4 was a lot. Year 4 was a lot. So that and the cost of moving in, and I'll do a separate video on finding a home and moving in and all that kind of stuff. But that's not cheap. Other countries are very different from the United States. Where I am, you got to pay 3 months in advance to move in. That's a substantial amount that I had to draw down, had to pull from my cash reserves. That's not a regular monthly expense. So year 4, it kind of, those expenses kind of took my breath away. Kind of took my breath away. And then the market volatility on top of that, it just made me say, "Oh, girl, how much longer is this portfolio supposed to last?" So although I handled all of it, I was able to do all the things that I wanted to do. I was able to take care of my medical needs, even what insurance didn't cover. I was able to get the treatment I needed. I was able to, restructure my portfolio. That also accounts for the diversification that I really should have now because of all the things that are going on in the world. I was able to restructure my finances Now that I have the visa I have, I also have access to financial institutions in this country. I have a bank account, and I've also opened an investment account. So the concerns that I have about the US dollar, now I can start managing the risk of that and moving my money into the local financial institutions now, the local financial system now. So while I have been able to handle all of the things that were thrown at me in year 4 that made me lose my breath, it was not a seamless process. So anyone who tells you that early retirement is all peaches and cream, all fun and sunshine and freedom and relaxing, child, they lying. Child, they lying. And anyone that tells you moving abroad is all good vibes and all sunshine and freedom, they lying too. They lying too, child. I'm trying to tell you, content creators create content for a reason, because they want you to believe this wonderful life that they are sharing with you so that you can hire them to get all the advice so you can live their wonderful life too. Child, I am a person who is actually living the life, who's sharing the reality of both sides, the good and the bad. And the challenging part that's in between, that's not necessarily bad, but it's like, oh, child, I didn't expect this. So it's a little uncomfortable, but we'll be all right, I think. So, yeah, those are the 3 things that kind of smacked me in my face in year 4. But if you're retired, if you're planning for retirement, I can imagine the emotional weight of watching your portfolio when the market is volatile and no paycheck is coming in, while also dealing with health stuff, while also trying to move abroad and navigating the red tape of living in a new country. It can make you question if you made the right call, because the weight of it all can be overwhelming. And because of it, some people do return to work because they can't handle the uncertainty. And working a job and getting a regular paycheck every 2 weeks, that's certainty. Even though it's not the life they want, it relieves the initial stressor because they know that paycheck will come every 2 weeks. Will I go back to work? What y'all think? I think trusting your plan, assuming that you've planned as best as you can and you've structured your portfolio and you've structured your finances in a way to account for risk, to account for downside, not just how much money do I need to live. That's short-sighted if that's all you're accounting for. To account for risk, to account for the downside. Trusting your plan is probably the hardest part. But if your money is structured for the long game, I think you'll be okay. But your money has to be structured for the long game, for that long-term sustainability. And you have to be okay with the uncertainty, right? But if you are already retired, I know Anita, I think someone else said they're already retired, and several of you are planning for early retirement. If you're already retired, what's the hardest part of retirement for you? And if you are not retired yet, what concerns you the most? I want to be able to have a conversation about concerns and answer questions about concerns so that you can pivot if you need to, or you can add something else to your plan that you hadn't considered. So let me know. If you're retired, what's the hardest part for you? And if you're not retired, what concerns you the most? And then I'll share my portfolio. Well, not share my portfolio. I take that back. I'm not sharing my portfolio, but I'll share where my portfolio stands, what I'm watching in my portfolio, and what will make me continue to question if my money will last. That sequence of returns risks that I mentioned. I'll share more details about that. But I want to hear from you. Let me see what the live chat is talking about. I want to hear from you. Yes, ma'am, Tanya. Your plan will get tested. You are not going to retire early and just coast. Just coast through life. Your plan will be tested. I promise you. I promise you. Yes, the visa requirements are no joke. They are no joke. I'm very grateful that the visa that I have is available, because years ago it was not, and I would have not been able to stay here. So I'm grateful that it exists. But yeah, some of these requirements are not easy to meet. And the ones that are easy to meet, they don't have longevity. They're not, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have like consistency for me. Like, for example, a very popular visa here is the DTV. And people think it's long-term because it's 5 years. But there are a lot of people who are being questioned, and they're not seeing those whole 5 years. And we'll talk about this in more detail when I do the next video will be on the visa that I have. But in addition to that, they have to leave the country every 6 months, and then they have to report to immigration every 90 days. Who want to live like that? I don't. I shouldn't say who want to live like that, because a lot of people do. But to me, that's for people that are still in travel mode, people that are still, bopping around country to country, and they're coming and going every couple of months. That's not the phase of life I'm in anymore. I'm still a traveler, but I don't want to have to travel if I don't want to, right? I don't want to report in every couple of months. Like to me, that doesn't feel like I'm living in a place. And from what I understand, when people have to do their reports every 90 days, that's like a whole day being in the immigration office. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing all that. What else y'all got? But yeah, Miss Gail said I can't work. You're allergic to work, Miss Gail? She said she ain't never going back. Never going back. Never go back. Life is too short. Let other people do the work now. I know that's right. Tanya said, knowing how and when to pivot. Tell me more, Tanya. Tell me more. Knowing how and when to pivot. So is that one of the most challenging things for you? Tell me more. Knowing how and when to pivot. Is there something, I want to know if there's something you're thinking about that I could possibly help with. Right? Tell me more. Tell me more. Knowing how and when to pivot. In this video, I've shared some of the ways I've had to pivot, but if there's more that I can share, I would love to. Just want to know what your your concerns are. Knowing how and when to pivot. Ooh, that washed me out. Ooh, that washed out my background. I thought I was getting dark on the screen. Now that didn't help. Let me turn that off. Let me turn off that overhead. Now I look really washed out. Maybe I need to let it. Why do I look so washed out? Why did I change like that? I don't know. Hopefully it'll settle once the light adjusts. But anyway, let's see. Evolving my portfolio composition from heavy growth to consistent dividend income. Oh, that's a good comment. Good one. Oh, I might have to move because this looks gray. Makes me look gray. I might have to move to another room. Evolving my portfolio composition from heavy growth to consistent dividend income with confidence and knowledge that I can manage my portfolio completely on my own if I need to do so. Yeah, that's understandable. That's understandable. Because when you're in the wealth building phase, your portfolio should be in heavy growth, especially if you're young, you're still working. Your portfolio should be mostly growth. But then when we retire, it's a risk to stay in growth. And I'll share that a little bit when I talk about what I'm watching in my portfolio. There's a risk to stay in growth because now even though you're still young, if you retired early, now you are somewhat in the wealth preservation phase because you're not adding to that portfolio anymore. So yeah, you need to adjust your risk and not be so heavy in growth. Understandable. That's one of my shared concerns too. Shalonda, I worry my financial shovel isn't currently big enough to reach my early retirement goal and live my current life at the same time. That's real. That's real, Shalonda. Your financial shovel. That's an interesting way of describing that. Yeah, because you're scooping money out here to put over there to plan for your early retirement, but you also still need money to live your current life and to enjoy your current life. So yeah, that's understandable. My not saying I recommend this, but when I was planning for early retirement, because I wanted to leave by a certain date. Once I made up my mind that I wanted to retire early, I wanted to leave by a certain date, and I had to be honest with myself and realize that the amount that I was saving was not enough to get me to that goal. So I had to consider the trade-offs. Number one, am I okay with continuing to save and invest the amount that I'm saving now and push my goal out further so I could compromise my goal? Or number two, if my goal is static and I do not want that to change, what am I willing to compromise in my life right now so that I can save more and reach my goal? I was faced with that decision and I had to make a choice. Is the goal The deadline, is that firm? Is it hard and fast? And what am I willing to do to get there? Or is my current life important to me? And is that hard and fast? And am I okay with working a little longer because I'm saving and investing less? So you may be at a similar crossroad, Shalonda, where you have to ask yourself those questions and make that decision. And for me, my goal was the priority. Once I made up my mind that I wanted to leave, because the whole time I was investing, I didn't have thoughts of retiring at 47. But once I made up my mind that I wanted to leave, that goal was the priority to me. So I did have to make some changes to my current life so that my shovel, I could fill more of the shovel to reach that goal. And some of the changes I made were sacrifices. I know a lot of people don't like that word, but it is what it is. Some of those changes I had to make were a little uncomfortable. I've talked about them before, right? I've talked about them before, where I left my home at a 3-story townhouse. By the time my daughter went off to college, I'm in this 3-story house by myself. I don't need all this. Okay. I left my house and I downsized and I rented a 1-bedroom apartment. That is how serious I was about retiring early. And that deadline was the deadline. And even when that deadline came, though, I was still scared. So that's when I took the 6-month sabbatical, just to test it out. But I made the decision that the date was more important than my current life. And the sacrifices that I made were just temporary. And that's what made it easier to compromise, because I knew it was just temporary. I have no regrets. I have no regrets. It was uncomfortable, but the discomfort was worth it for the life that I'm able to live now. You said, especially since you're not certain that you want to move abroad. That adds an important element to it. That adds a very important element, because in that case, if you're not certain that you want to move abroad, that means your expenses are going to stay the same, right? So if your expenses are going to stay the same, then you need even more in your shovel if you're planning to retire early, because you're going to need even more money to sustain your life on the other side. So perhaps it's not a trade-off for you. Perhaps you just need to consider both, no matter what. Lowering your expenses, which may have a short-term impact to your quality of life, so that you can invest more, right? I don't know anyone that has retired early without making some sacrifice. If anybody's in the live chat that's retired early and didn't have to make any sacrifices, let me know. I could be wrong, and I'm okay with being wrong. So if you have an experience where you did not have to make any sacrifices, share it in the live chat. Anita says she is unemployable. Over the last 2 years, I've lost what little bit of the corporate keep a job face I had. I know that's right. As far as choosing a place, then that doesn't serve its purpose, such as infrastructure and healthcare. Okay, so let me go back to see what that's connected to, Tanya. I can't remember what I asked you. Oh, knowing how and when to pivot. Okay, knowing how and when to pivot. And your concern was, as far as choosing a place, then if that place doesn't serve its purpose, such as infrastructure or healthcare. I think knowing how and when to pivot is trusting yourself. In this case, trusting yourself in your judgment. So you choose a place based on what you know at the time, a place that you love, a place where you've always wanted to live, a place that meets the criteria, or that you think meets the criteria. And then when you get there, if it doesn't serve its purpose that you expected, you have to trust yourself to say, this is not working for me. And trusting yourself will let you know when to pivot, right? Trusting yourself will let you know this isn't working. In my situation, when I first left the United States the last time, I initially went to Bali. I love Bali. I have no regrets for going to Bali first. Bali served its purpose during that transition phase for me, off the cusp of cancer treatment. Bali, Bali served its purpose, right? But visiting Bali, vacationing in Bali is very different from living in Bali. So I realized that it didn't serve its purpose for me in terms of living. Bali is perfect for vacation. I will, in fact, I'm thinking about going back to Bali next month. Now that I'm settled into my home, thinking about going back to Bali next month. So I will always vacation in Bali, but it doesn't serve its purpose for me for living. And once I realized that, I knew I couldn't stay there. So trusting yourself and not gaslighting yourself or compromising and saying, oh, well, I thought it was going to be this. Maybe give it a little more time. Oh, I expected this. Maybe I made a wrong decision. Let me try this. I don't do that to myself. Because when I make a decision, I never make a decision with the expectation that it's permanent. And when I make a decision, I always reserve the right to change my mind. So when I choose something, I allow myself to experience it fully. But if there's anything that tells me, nope, this ain't it, I have no pride. I have no pride in sticking with something just because I thought it was it and later realizing it wasn't. I am not going to suffer through sticking with a decision that I know doesn't work for me anymore. And I'm able to pivot and change my mind because I acknowledge what I know now is not what I knew then. So I'm making a different decision with different data, with different information. And when you know more, or what's the saying? When you know better, you're supposed to do better. But when you know more, you can make a better decision for you. I think a lot of people stay stuck and don't pivot because they feel beholden to the decision that they made, or they feel like, oh, if this didn't work, I'm a failure because I thought it was going to work. Or what will other people think of me changing my mind so much or moving again? None of that ever crosses my mind. I can give a flying flip what anybody think of me, but rest assured, any decision I make, I'm there because I want to be there, not because I have to be there. And when I make a different decision, it's even better than the first decision I made. So my life is getting substantially better and better and better. So trust yourself that you will know if this ain't it. But also be open to exploring the possibilities. You don't have to choose a place and that place is perfect because you will never know until you get there. Watching other people on YouTube live there is not the same. Their standards, their expectations, their needs are different from you. Right? Doing all the research in the world, researching your standards on that place is not the same as actually living it and experiencing it for yourself. So there's no way you're going to choose perfect, ever. So choose what fits your criteria and meets your needs based on what you know right now. And go see. But also reserve the right to change your mind. Right? Hope that helps. Hope that helps. Another example, if I got sick while living somewhere, but then would have to move to be closer to a certain specialist. Now, that is something that you could consider when you're making the decision, right? So if you currently have a pre-existing condition that needs a certain specialist type care, make sure that specialist is available before you move to that place. That's a decision I recently had to make, right? Researching the specialists that are available. I need very, very specialized oncology care. I could not live anywhere that didn't have a hospital with global standards for oncology, right? So if you have some pre-existing conditions that you are concerned about, that is a risk that you can somewhat manage by considering it in your choice, right? Ms. Gail, I've learned to lower my cost of living for a period to reach my goals. Yes. And that's a decision I would make the same one every time. I have no regrets about doing that. I'm okay with being uncomfortable short term in order to get what I want long term. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Auntie Yo, I'm trying to retire, but bored. No money for extras. All the things I said I would do, I am not doing. But to go back to work feels like going back to an abusive relationship. I know that's right. I know that's right. You have no money for extras. So when you planned for your retirement, did you plan to stay where you are, where your cost of living was already tight? And even if you didn't plan for it, that's okay. Maybe it's time for you to pivot, Miss Antio. Have you considered a pivot, moving to some place that has a lower cost of living so that you do have more money for extras? Have you considered that? How flexible are you? And that's one thing about me. When I say I will change my mind, I'm so flexible. I will do whatever it takes to get what I want. If I'm not happy about something, if something does not meet my needs, and that means I have to uproot again, I'm okay with that. I am not so fixed to any situation, to any person, to any city or country, to any home, to any job. And I don't know if it's my life experiences and because I have such broad experiences and I've been exposed to so much, I'm not fixed on anything. I am not beholding to anything material. If I need to let something go, let it go. Let it go. Let it go. I am not attached to anything. If I think my quality of life would be better if I didn't have this iPhone, and I made a decision, my life would be substantially better if I switched to Android. I'm switching to Android tomorrow. And I love my phone. If I had an experience where I needed to shut down this YouTube channel because YouTube causes XYZ, y'all would not see me again. Y'all would not even get a goodbye video. I would just poof, poof, gone. I'm not attached to anything. And I think that the ability to detach also helps me to live such a carefree life. So I'm not attached to anything or anyone. I'm in a phase of my life where what I want and what's best for me is most important, right? So if the way you're living now, you're bored, you have no money for extras, if I were in your shoes, I would question if where I'm living now, is this too expensive? Can I move somewhere else where the cost of living is less expensive so that I have more money to do the things that I enjoy? right? I hope that helps. But anyway, getting back to my portfolio. So a few things that I'm watching, and I'll go through these pretty quickly, is my withdrawal rate for long-term sustainability. Question that I ask myself, that if you are in retirement, question that you should be asking yourself is, am I withdrawing more than my plan assumed? And the reason why I say that my plan assumed is because what you need will adjust every year because of inflation, right? So if when you were planning, you projected that you would withdraw 50,000 a year, that's unrealistic, because 50,000 a year in 5 years or in 10 years is not going to get you the same thing that 50,000 will get you this year. So is your plan realistic? Do you end up withdrawing more than what you initially planned for because of inflation, right? So I am monitoring my withdrawal rate, because increases, if you are increasing that consistently year after year, and you didn't plan for those increases, it will challenge the long-term sustainability of your plan. So I've been monitoring my withdrawal rate. Next thing is the liquidity buffer. So the cash account that I told you I created before I left, that buffer, you need a buffer when the market is volatile, right? This helps to absorb the shock of the stock market. It helps to absorb the shock to your portfolio. So you're no longer withdrawing from your portfolio, you're withdrawing from the liquidity buffer. So number one, do you have a liquidity buffer? I had to revisit my buffer. That's where you should have cash. Some people have short-term bonds. Some people have money market. Some people have CDs, right? And if the market is down, when the market is volatile, when the market is down and you're withdrawing, you're drawing down from your liquidity buffer, are you replenishing that buffer? So that's something I had to revisit before year 4 ended. I had to replenish that buffer, right? And the third thing that I'm watching, I think Anita kind of mentioned this already, is I'm watching my asset allocation, the way it drifts. Sometimes it can drift in one direction and then you get overexposed to one sector. This is very common when we have market rallies and the market reaches all-time high. The bull market is strong, which is a good thing. But when you have that growth, sometimes it's growing more in one sector than it is in others. And you can become overexposed to, for example, US large cap stocks. US large cap stocks, they drive the market, but they also have way more risk too. So when the market reverses and the market starts going down, they're going to go down the fastest. So I had to revisit my portfolio to make sure I wasn't overly exposed in one sector because of the growth that my portfolio has had over the past couple of years since I retired. I also had to make sure that I wasn't heavily reliant on just a handful of winners. I don't want the bulk of my portfolio in only one or two stocks just because they're winners and they've been growing the most in my portfolio. I had to reposition my allocation, moving money out of those winners and putting it over into an area where it's relatively stable. I start to say safe. There is no safety in investing in the stock market. Everything, risk is inherent when you're investing, but had to move it into areas that are relatively stable, right? Even if you are heavy in bonds, bonds are very sensitive when there are talks of rate changes, when the Federal Reserve is adjusting interest rates. So just being aware of where you're overexposed and making sure that your asset allocation hasn't drifted too far outside of your comfort zone and making those adjustments, rebalancing your portfolio as needed. But the most important thing that made me question if my money would last is the sequence of returns risk. And I think this is one of the biggest risks that I took and one of the biggest threats to my portfolio, because when you retire early, and I'm mainly talking to those that retired early because that's my situation, but this may also apply to you in normal retirement. But when you retire early and the market is down during the early years of your retirement, it could have a huge impact on the longevity of your portfolio. Two people can retire with the same portfolio, have the same balance, and have the same average performance returns. But that one person who retired and they experienced a market downturn in the first few years of retirement, their portfolio over the long term will be substantially less. And experts say the sequence of return risk, the window for the sequence of return risk is in the first 5 to 10 years. Is in the first 5 to 10 years. If you experience a down market in the first 5 to 10 years, your portfolio will be more sensitive in early retirement, and there could be an impact to the long-term sustainability. So the reason why this was a concern for me is because I already retired in the middle of a recession or in the middle of a down market. I retired while the market was down. So I went into it exposed, right? So if we experience another bear market, I'm only in year 4. If we experience another bear market, then that is going to substantially impact my portfolio if I'm also trying to draw down at the same time. So negative returns on top of withdrawals in the first 5 to 10 years could substantially impact the longevity of my portfolio. So sequence of returns risk is real. I knew it, but as I mentioned before, this is not theory in a book anymore. This is real life for me now. So to experience multiple down markets in the first 5 years of my retirement is a risk. Is a risk. Now, is it so risky where I would want to return to work to make up for it? Absolutely not. Y'all already knew the answer to that question when I asked, would I go back to work? Absolutely not. But I share my experience in year 4 just so you can understand the reality and the risk that are involved and the things that you should consider and think about when you're planning to retire early. Whether they send you back to work or not, that will vary with each person, depending on how much of a nest egg you saved before you turned off the faucet. But for me, 4 years later, new medical expenses, no insurance. I turned off the drip. So now I take my dividends as income. For the past 2 years, I've added Nothing, oh, next to nothing to my portfolio. But where my portfolio stands today, I would not be going back to work. I would not be going back to work. But all the things that caught my attention this year, I'm glad they caught my attention because I was able to pivot and it made me more aware of the reality of managing my portfolio over the next 40 years. I think when I first retired, I had these rose-colored glasses on, and I was only thinking about all the good things that are associated with early retirement. But this past year, it grounded me. It made me look at things more realistically. Will anything change in my life? Absolutely not. Um, have I done some things differently financially? Yes, because I need this money to last for at least another 30, 40 years. Um, but my portfolio, where it stands today, I never share my actual numbers, but my portfolio is more today than it was when I left my career 4 years ago. In fact, if anybody that's familiar with the rule of 72, they say that it's a mathematical formula where you can determine how soon your money will double. Right? So let's say, I'm just going to make up a number. It's not my portfolio. Let's say your portfolio earns an average of 10%. That's the average market return. So if your portfolio is earning an average of 10%, that means that your balance will double in 7.2 years. So let me see what the formula, let me get what the actual formula is. The rule of 72. So you take 72, hold on, do it on my computer. It's called the rule of 72. You divide 72 by your annual interest rate. So if your annual return is 10%, you take 72 and you divide that by 10 to get 7.2. So if your portfolio is earning about 10% a year, your balance should theoretically double every 7.2 years. So my portfolio is earning substantially more than 10% because of the strategy that I use to invest and some of the ways I've restructured my portfolio. And I've been retired for 4 years. So I will not be going back to work anytime soon. But if you have already stepped off the ledge and retired early, congratulations to you. I hope me sharing my experience in year 4, some of the eye-opening experiences that I've had, now that I'm more aware, I hope it helps you to be more aware of what may be coming for you too, what's possible, and things to consider as you are pivoting or making adjustments to your portfolio. And if you are building towards your freedom journey, I hope that what I've shared has given you some food for thought to consider as you are planning for your freedom journey. Retiring early is wonderful. I don't regret it at all. I'm glad I left when I left. And I'm also glad I made the sacrifices that I made to retire early. So with that said, I thank you all for watching. If you have any questions for me, drop them in the chat. I will hang back for another few minutes to answer any questions you have about retiring early, about investing, structuring your portfolio. I'll do what I can. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll answer a few before we log off. But yeah, child, year 4 was very different from year 1, 2, and 3. I feel like year 1 and 2 was like all the fun, all the peaches and cream, all the cotton candy, all the fun and the travel. And year 3 was like, whew. And year 4 was like, all right, girl, what we doing here? I hope and pray that year 5 gives me some breathing room and not have as many life events going on. But I made it. I made it. And for that, I'm grateful. For that, I'm grateful. Tanya said I wouldn't go back either. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. As Anita said, I'm unemployable. The way my attitude is set up, the way my mindset is set up, girl, I'm unemployable. Wouldn't nobody hire me the way I think right now. Wouldn't nobody hire me? That couple of years of cash buffer to sleep like a baby while the market is doing the most is a real early retirement cheat code, along with the brokerage account. That's right. That's right, Anita. And on that note, we will wrap up here. I thank you all for watching. And until next time, bye for now.